Awesome. So just to give you guys a quick rundown, this is Paul. I came across Paul not too long ago. He's in the sales space. We actually connected in a kind of a funny manner. But he's been in the space for, I believe, just over 3 years at this point, 4 years or so. He works in the luxury watch space. He like knows way more about sales than I do. So he's going to be talking to us about sales. He's going to give us a rundown about, some processes. I told him, I was like, we got a few guys here who, are more of rookies when it comes to sales. And, what do you have to say to potentially set them mentally on the right path and give them some good advice to sharpen their saws? So, pretty much what we have going here is to give you an introduction, Paul, is we have, um, with us here, we have four guys or three guys, and then we have four that weren't able to make it today. We have one that's in Calgary, so his time is like all messed up and he has work. Two more that are in Montreal at the moment that are on vacation. So I'm just recording it and gonna send it to them after as a little bit of homework. Um, but that's pretty much an introduction. If you have something to say, Paul. Can't hear you. Hey, Paul, I can't hear you, man.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There we go, rock and roll. Thank you for the introduction. I appreciate it. Um, yeah, these Quebecers, they're never running through. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait, les gars? On y va. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? So I'm excited for today because the way that I always like to take these calls, and first of all, I'll talk a little bit about myself. I'll talk a bit about Ashton, but really is I want to give you guys as much value as possible. It's great that we're a nice focus group. Jeremy, Nico, and Kaylee, do we get to see your pretty faces, or what's going to go on here? You guys there? I just want to make sure that you can hear me before we jump into it.
Uh, I think they're both there. I don't know if I know we were having camera issues, but if they can just say hi.
Yep. If you guys can hear me okay, just give me a thumbs up.
Yeah, all good. Camera is
Awesome.
just not compatible with Zoom right now, so
Is it Kaylee or Kyle or Kale?
it's Kale.
Kale. Gotcha. My bad, brother.
No problem.
And then our Greek friend, Nico. You can hear us okay?
Yeah, I can. Sorry, I just got my hash browns from the air fryer. I'm here.
No, you're all good, my man. Awesome. What I love about doing conversations with niche groups like this is I can focus on stuff that'll ultimately provide you guys the most value, which is really kind of the point of this focus group. So in the next 10, 15, 20 minutes, really, I want to be able to dump as much information from my brain as possible into yours. Number one. Number two, get you guys excited. And number three, give you guys both information and sort of transfer over a bit of a paradigm that'll actually incentivize you on a more primal level to actually do what's necessary to get you guys the results. Because at the end of the day, here, fundamentally, we're here to make money, right? We're here to learn a skill set. We're here to become better at the art and the craft of influence. But ultimately, bottom line, what talks is money and what speaks is money, which in your guys' case is in the form of closes, right? And sales is one of those industries and spaces to where it's so fucking results driven because ultimately bottom line there's no discrepancy. There's no the notion of relativity or the idea of something being relative or subjective doesn't really apply here. Did you close the sale or not? It doesn't matter if you're having a bad day. It doesn't matter if, the sky is blue or gray. What bottom line at the end of the day matters is did the sale close or not? So before we jump into it, my first question is, did you guys have anything or point that you guys wanted to go over in particular, just so I can better structure kind of the way that I deliver this information?
Now's the
Any
time to
topic?
ask any questions that you guys have encountered, any troubles. I know Jeremy, you had a little bit of some troubles on your first day. Maybe you want to talk about that.
Yeah, honestly, it was just I was just wasn't sure if it was like normal to get that little amount of pickups. Like I was expecting to get more pickups for the amount of calls I was making.
Mhm.
But I just found out I talked to Ashton about it. He said it was normal, so like just gotta put in more volume, I guess.
Nico, what about yourself, brother?
I was gonna ask, like, there's a few people on the phone who, when you call them and they'll hit you with kind of a, oh, we're already with another marketing service or something like that. Is there a way to get around that? Or at that point, do you just have to hang up the phone and give up?
Gotcha. Okay. And then our other friend, Kale, do you have any questions?
No,
Or
I'm all
anything?
good.
There's a reason why I'm asking all this. Anything at your end?
No, I'm all good. Thank you though.
The reason I ask these questions before we jump into it is because a lot of the time your question will reflect your current level or your current sort of paradigm that you're operating out of. And a lot of these questions will naturally solve themselves as you sort of evolve within the process. So really, I already have a good idea of where you guys kind of are at. And I want to kind of start this by telling you a little bit about my story. Um, to make it brief, as Ashton sort of generously introduced, I've been in sales for the past 4 years and a bit. And I started from the bottom of the barrel, literally cold calling from my iPhone, getting zero pickups. And I did it the hard way, by the way. I did it the worst way possible. Zero educational sources, just picked up the phone and started dialing, took the punches. And it took me probably way longer than it should have. Now, luckily, I got access to the right mentors, the right education, the right conversation, the right people to bounce ideas off of. I ended up doing high ticket sales consulting for a number of companies, one personal development company in particular. You guys may have heard of it. It was formerly a large men's dating company, online dating company, and they were selling high ticket products to just crazy wealthy individuals that wanted to step up their dating game. And that was a field that really interested me at the time. So I really went deep in there. And then from there, I kind of pivoted, got a lot of sales experience, and in unison, I was working in the film industry. So I decided, hey, let me just launch my own production firm. It's time to take the plunge. Launch that. Sales did nothing but help and tripled my business, especially in the creative space. A lot of people struggle with that. A lot of creatives are not the best salespeople, which is why there's so much of a discrepancy with who makes money in that space. And then obviously, within that film space, we focus on luxury watches. That's kind of the niche that we're in. So just what Ashton's doing with his company FitX, we did something very similar in the watch industry with regards to running paid traffic. Obviously, now the climate has changed since I've done that quite a bit. However, what will always stand true and remain the same is the sales principles. And one thing in particular that I love about sales that I think Nico, Jeremy, Kaylee, one more time, right? It's Kale,
Kale, yeah.
Kale,
Like
gotcha.
the lettuce.
Like the lettuce. No, that'll stick now. One thing that you guys need to know in particular, which is a really sort of liberating feeling. Have you guys all seen that movie Fight Club? Right? Brad Pitt is that notion of sort of self-acceptance and this concept of whatever happens, I'll be okay, even if it's the worst of the worst. And that's one thing that's beautiful about sales because there's a lot of young entrepreneurs that I'm sure you see on social media. Not all of them are like this, but there's a lot that are benefactors of arbitrage, meaning they got lucky from a pump and dump. They got some kind of sort of fiscal backing that allowed them to duplicate their wealth with a bit of guidance. With sales, there's that Drake lyric, you started from the bottom. There is no other way to look at it. And the beauty is when you actually start from the proverbial bottom is that you have a foundation. You build an infrastructure. And no matter what happens to you in life, no matter what somebody takes away from you, no matter what the sort of socioeconomic climate is, you will always be fed. You will always eat. And if you're not eating, the answer is very simple. You're just shit at sales. Or you're not putting the necessary effort in correlated to your skill set. That's it. It's so mathematically algorithmic. It's so simple when you lay it out on paper. Input A, input B, input C, result. And that's why I love it. And I find it so great because sales is the one division of business that you can argue is the least bullshit area, which is fantastic. Especially as men, as guys, we can all come together and just get the job done. So, back to my original point here. If you know sales, you're going to eat. If you know sales, you're not only going to eat, but you're probably going to thrive. Just a few short years ago, I started my business relatively early. I was very lucky to get a head start. Was downtown Toronto, stuck in the middle of COVID, hated it. And within 6 months, and by the way, when I say 6 months, it's probably an extended time frame. It was only about 4 months of actually doing hard work. I was able to escape Toronto, which I at the time didn't want to be in because of the whole global situation, lockdowns, all that jazz. I was able to move to Florida and actually have that quality of freedom. And that's the second degree of sales that you guys have is you're not only building a skill set, but you're exercising it within a domain that literally guarantees you 3 levels of freedom. Time, location, and financial. And that's huge. And the first thing that I really want to push, and Ashton's a very modest guy. He's very down to business. And I think we don't remind ourselves enough about this is number one, the opportunity to actually get into a position right now where you're doing online sales and have a mentor and have someone leading it that actually knows what they're doing. Because there's a lot of bullshitters that are running their online agencies that are putting online, hey, I scaled to 5K, 10K, 20, 100K a month that genuinely don't know what you're talking about. And a lot of guys that you might even follow on YouTube that I know personally and I hang out with personally that are beyond exaggerating their figures, beyond exaggerating their numbers, and genuinely don't know what they're talking about. I'm telling you guys, the fact that you're working with Ashton, you guys are doing something right as a basis fundamental. So that's something to pat you guys yourselves on the back. Don't even pat Ashton on the back. Pat yourselves on the back for finding someone that actually knows what they're fucking doing. Because that's rare, bottom line. I've spent some time with Ashton. He actually came and lived with me in Florida for a few weeks at my place down here. I'm based between Miami. I visit Toronto every once in a while, but our firm has, we do studios in Miami as well as on the West Coast in Los Angeles. Ashton visited me, and just not only the discipline that this guy has, and I'm not pumping his tires because he's here, by the way. I would say the exact same thing to anybody. You are goddamn lucky, either lucky or you're damn intelligent that you made the decision to work with this guy. Number one. Number two, this guy's funny. He thinks it's a fucking, I'm gassing him up now. He thinks it's a joke. No, but it's true. Number two, is the position of leverage that you're in. Ashton talks a lot about leverage, and understand that you guys have each other as a team. Jeremy, Nico, Kale, Ashton, you guys have each other as a team under Ashton's leadership. Leverage that. You guys are a squad. And a lot of the times people get into a competitive headspace on sales where it's like, well, everyone in my team is like, they're stealing my leads. No. Your leads are each other's leads. And I find a similar thing about money. Once you guys start getting some cash coming into your own pockets, into the bank, you're going to find that, and this is even a tough paradigm for me at some points to understand, and it was a very big growing pain. The more you give, and it sounds like a cliche, corny secret, the more you give and share, especially with the team around you, it will literally tell your subconscious mind, there is an abundance of access for me, and you will perform so much better. Because the second you go into scarcity of sales, the second you go into the mindset of, holy fuck, I need this deal or that's it, game over, you're toasted. Same with a girl. The second you start telling yourself, oh my God, if this girl doesn't like me back, or if this girl doesn't work out, that's it, I'm done. Never going to get a girl at this caliber again. You're toasted. I can guarantee you might as well not even take the action. Right?
Yeah, and
So,
just to add on, if I can just add something on top of that and
yeah,
cut
of
in,
course.
that was really, really excellent. A lot of you guys have, reached out to me, and this is just like classic, this is just sales, and I fall into this as well. But like, maybe you'll talk to someone on the phone, right? He seems kind of interested, and you'll book a meeting, and it will be awesome. And then maybe the meeting won't show. Like I know yesterday with the one guy, Nico, he didn't show up, and you were like, oh fuck, right? It kind of stings, right? You have to like be attached yet so unattached to the sale at the same time. You have to be like so like detached from the outcome but attached to providing value, if that makes sense. If you want to continue, Paul.
That's a very interesting point. I think that's a valid point, and it's a tough bridge to cross because there's this swinging pendulum that you're always sort of trying to keep balanced. That sort of balances between either side, which is fundamentally you need to strike that balance of being, as Ashton said it beautifully, of being attached, but also not overly pushing for one particular result. You're chasing the result and a caliber and an expectation more than you're chasing a particular lead or deal. So what you should be obsessing over is the fact that you want to be hitting that 5, 10, 15K month with your sales. What you want to be obsessing over is a certain image and caliber of client that you'd want to sign on. That's what you want to be obsessing with. You want to be obsessing with a lead that responds a certain way rather than any particular lead. You don't want to be obsessing with, Julia from, Miami Fitness Club X. You want to be obsessing with a lead that is responsive, a lead that takes action quickly, a lead that is assertive, a lead that knows that they're serious about actually scaling their business. Those are the qualities that you guys want, and I would urge you to write them down. It sounds like a corny cliche exercise. I once was, doing this interesting product, and it was interesting because it was a dating product that we were selling at the time, an info product online. Yeah, Ashton, you want to jump in?
Continue your story. I'll jump in after.
There was a dating product that we were selling at the time, and there was this idea that if you map out and identify exactly what you're looking for, both in a partner and then it translated into a sales lead, even if you're like, you consciously know what you want. Yeah, I want a lead. Obviously, I want a lead that's responsive. Obviously, I want a lead that has a degree of respect and answers the phone. You want to write this down. I'd urge you guys to do this today. I'd urge you guys to write it down on a piece of paper, actually take the action. And by the way, even if what I'm saying sounds like bullshit, I'd urge you to do it anyway, because it's that concept of you are going to take action based off of what a mentor is telling you. And there's no harm. Then what I want you to do after you write out that list, and maybe I probably shouldn't be telling this to you now, but I'll tell you anyway. I want you to say and ask yourself, how many of these qualities do I have? It's a little thought process, a little exercise. And believe it or not, none of these qualities, funnily enough, are really going to have to do with, your actual fiscal capability. Yes, ideally you have a lead that is qualified and has money, but actually that's not what you want. You don't really care about a lead just having money, because I know plenty of leads that kind of have a bit of money, but they're indecisive, they're emotionally reactive. All of these qualities. And the beautiful part is, whether you have money or not, you can develop these qualities in yourself. Now, I don't want to dwindle on this sort of esoteric. A lot of salespeople, they just start talking about these concepts that aren't really grounded. And I remember being at the beginning of sales, you want to just, okay, what's the tactic? What do I do? What do I say? What do I do to get X result? And I actually have an answer for you guys, given the way that you answered your questions at the beginning of the call. And that answer is one word. And I think this one word is a fundamentally pivotal paradigm for people that are beginning in sales. And I find that a lot of people that are beginning of sales actually lack this quality. That word is familiarity. That word is familiarity. When you go and hang out with your boys, you talk a very, very different way than when you hang out with your mom, than when you hang out with your girlfriend, when you hang out with your teacher, possible professor, an employer, a boss, a team member. I want you to ask yourself, who in my life do I get the best responsiveness from and command the most respect from? Number one, that's the first question. And number two, who can I get into the most uncomfortable conversations with the quickest? When I say uncomfortable conversations, even in a satirical way, even in a joking way. And a lot of the time, I find it's with your closest friendships. With your closest friendships, you have what we call a level of comfort and familiarity that other relationships or new cold relationships wouldn't have. What I propose to you is you can leverage that. If you can leverage and find a way to leverage that element of familiarity within your cold prospects, not only in sales and business, but in virtually every other aspect of your life will get exponentially easier, especially when you manage the skill set. And when I ask you guys, I'd urge you to think about it when you walk into a bar, club, or just chilling and you meet another guy at a party, or even just on your day to day, just walking through the street. And there's that one guy that's so genuinely relaxed and just chill. I know we all thought of Ashton right then and there. I'm a little bit more neurotic, but that guy that's just cool. That's just so grounded on a fundamental level. And when you have a conversation with them, it's just so free flowing. What's up, man? How you been? How you doing? It's simple. It's on an actual energetic level. It's not a thing you say. It's not a thing you even do. It's a thing you embody. And if you can employ this notion of familiarity within your leads, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it, that will exponentially increase your retention. That'll exponentially increase your process and your conversions fundamentally. And you're going to find that I urge you all to record your sales calls. If you listen to your sales calls from a month ago, and then in 2 months from now, listen to your sales calls today, guarantee you're going to cringe, and that's a good thing. I even probably will. Because you're going to realize how incongruent you sound to what you're asking. And then you're like, oh yeah, that does not sound good to a prospective caller. And that's another really beautiful thing about sales is there's this constant element of growth. And one thing that'll always be dwindling is this concept of familiarity and how cool you can be with your leads. So before I kind of go on and proceed, and because I can talk for ages about this stuff, I want to stop there and see if you guys have any questions at all about myself, what I've done in business, what I've done in sales, or any sales questions that are just popping up so far, or any just ideas off of what I've said, or anything in general before we move forward. Yes, Nico.
What would you say like your biggest mistake when you first started in sales was that you kind of made, and a very common mistake that most beginners will make when they start?
Very simple answer: not enough volume. That's the most simple answer I could possibly give you. Not enough volume, and then once you start doing a shit ton of volume, ceasing to refine your actual processes. So you'll be surprised, especially when you're doing dials, how much efficiency that you can actually get into. Just tweaking in certain things. You do not want to start there though. You do not want to start by, oh, I need to tweak my CRM. I need to tweak that. No, start by doing a shit ton of volume, even if it's just calling on your iPhone. Hey Siri, call 693-123-4567. Just whatever you need to do, get those reps in, get that volume in. Then what you want to do is merge that volume with systemization, because you're doing it at such a mass scale. Sales is a volume game. And actually, it's funny because even when you get to a high level, sales will still be a volume game in some capacity. And then when it's not, which is my example now, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that. It won't really apply to you guys, but I want to share it with you because it's where your mind should be at down the future. Even when it's not, the principles will still apply. So 2 things as the biggest mistake. Number 1 is volume. Number 2 is tweaking systems. And on a personal level, the biggest mistake that I'd say I've made is assuming that you've closed a sale before you actually close the sale. You want to mitigate heartache as much as possible. And you'll find that sales is one of those things that it's actually going to keep you so level-headed and calm as a man. Yeah, volume really negates luck. So if your thing is, oh, I'm just having an unlucky day, volume, 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 volume. Because let's say hypothetically this was like a video game, okay? And we had like, when you start a game and you have like a certain amount of stats. Have you guys played the game Fallout 4 or Fallout? Right? You know how you have the special? There's a game called Fallout 4. It's like an RPG game. Strength, perception, endurance, charisma, whatever that is. And you're given a certain amount of XP that you can actually allot towards that. Let's say your luck is at 1%. So if we were to make life arbitrary, 1 out of every 100 things you do only, you get lucky on, which is, I think, pretty shit. I would rather have it 5, 10, 15. But let's say it's only 1. If you do 300 things, you're going to get lucky 3 times. So even if your luck on a percentage level as a human being is lower, there's still a little bit. And if you just double the volume, it's impossible not to. And then it becomes a personal battle. Then it becomes nothing to do with the external. It becomes all to do with your internal.
And just to cut in here as well, that's really interesting that you're talking about this, because like Nico, you've already booked 2 meetings. Like Jordan, who's not here, he's already booked 2 meetings. Like you guys are doing, I just want to say, like, you guys are doing exceptionally well, right? Like, I think it took me like 2 weeks of dialing straight to actually like book my first meeting, right? So like you guys are like, Nico, you're doing really well. Jeremy, I know you haven't booked a meeting, but like, bro, like you've been dialing for what, 3 days? Like, cut
I'm gonna
yourself
get there,
some
bro. I'm gonna get
3
there.
days.
Yeah, like 3 days already, right? So like try doing that for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, get no results, and then your mind starts playing with yourself, right? And then you're like, oh my God, what do I do? Right? So you guys are doing exceptionally well. That's all I wanted to say.
I didn't know that you guys
Thank
were
you.
dying for 3 days. Ashton made it seem like you guys were you guys present yourselves well. That's good. And what about you, Nico? How long have you been playing the phones for?
Same amount, literally 3 days. Technically 2, kind of. I mean, I only made 1 call on Wednesday just because I was super busy. But in fairness, the 1 call led to 1 meeting, so that was just kind of super lucky. But yeah, no, just 3 days essentially.
So what if you had done 50 calls, right?
If I had
And
done 50 calls, I probably would have gotten more meetings on that Wednesday, or at least something more talkings, at least.
another thing I want to stress, another paradigm that I want to stress. Let's say you book your first call, which by the way, that very rarely happens. If it does, amazing. Congratulations. Maybe you've got the secret touch. Maybe you don't. Because I remember when I started, there was a couple days where I started just booking meetings back to back. There's 2 horrible things you can do. One is get complacent. And 2 is, let's say you book 1 call at the beginning and then you do 50 other dials, 50, and you get rejections and no's. Don't think that those 50 dials went to waste, because the first call paid for those other 50. Right? It's like, let's say you close a deal for 10 grand, which will be I presume very soon for you guys. And by the way, I'm not saying that lightly. I've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of salespeople. I know what it's like. I can feel the energy. I can even just see you guys if there's that level of ambition. It doesn't take all that long. And if it does, so be it. But let's say you close a $10,000 deal, but it took you 100 dials, to make that $10,000 deal. You're still getting paid $100 a call, a dial. Even if it's a way smaller amount of money, you're still getting compensated way more heavily than any other job would ever compensate you. And not only that, you're not only getting compensated fiscally to where your fiscal compensation is directly correlated with the amount of effort you put in, but also you're getting compensated mentally. I remember I did work for this when I first started sales. I would hustle sales jobs along with hustling my own business service, which honestly probably wasn't the best strategy. In retrospect, the better strategy would have been just do the sales gigs, because when you're trying to run your own business as well, you're dealing with so much other dumb bullshit that fundamentally doesn't add to the most important skill set, which is sales. You have to deal with operations, systems, processes, just the dumbest of stuff, product development, all this dumb shit, to where your priority should just be focusing on sales. Because the rest you can really delegate, outsource, and even if you can as an entrepreneur, if that's your end goal, start with the sales and focus solely on the sales. Yeah, jump in. This conversation.
It's just another question here. So when we talk about sales, essentially we're all doing cold calling, right? We're just dialing. If we shot out emails, would that be an effective way as well? Like, could emails also help? Because I've had a few calls where someone will answer the phone and be like, "Oh, the owner's not in." I had one who said the owner was in Spain. Like, best way to communicate with them is through email. Like, would it be effective to shoot them those emails, or do we just leave it at that?
Very, very great question. And I think it takes a more sort of holistic view before we answer that, which is, what is sales? Right? Because the reason I'm calling cold calling sales is because it is sales still. It's still part of sales. Even if you're not taking the actual calls and closing them yet, that's still, you can't do that without doing the cold call bits, because you're still influencing, you're still persuading, you're still selling something. You guys are selling the meeting, which is still just as much of a sale. You guys are framing the meeting, which is still just as much of the sale. So to answer your question is, what is sales ultimately? You're trying to influence somebody to make a decision in your favor. Right? And that's where it can get manipulative. That's where you can learn a lot of tactics to get things to do people that aren't in their best interest. That's why I'd rather use the word influence, because ultimately what I want you guys to do is influence someone to take a decision. I want you, as people that are in the scope of influence, not just sales, but influence, is you're influencing someone to take a decision. Yeah, Ashton.
Yeah, well, all I wanted to say, thank you for specifically that question. I don't know what you have to say about the question specifically, Paul.
I was going to get to it, but yeah, if you had anything you wanted to tack on to.
Here, pretty much in terms of that question, for emails, I don't think it's the best idea. Usually, it's used as a smokescreen, right? I understand your direction, Paul, because and I agree with you to a point. You can have success with cold email, right? But usually it's a smokescreen. Hey, send me an email. Get off the phone. It's a way of saying get off the phone.
Yeah.
Continue, Paul.
So what I was going to say is this: there's a reason why I'm prefacing it this way, is because you have to ask yourself fundamentally, what are you trying to do? You're trying to influence someone to take a decision. Okay. Whether that decision is through the medium of cold call, cold email, texting. I've even had sales chats on WhatsApp and Telegram where we have a full conversation and close someone on a multi-$1,000 contract, and we never even spoken to them. My point is, no matter what medium you're going through, people will be in a certain headspace. People will be in a paradigm. People will also try to get rid of you. People will also be in a paradigm of, this guy's just wasting my time. And you have to understand that as a salesperson and be able to read, is this person actually having genuine interest, or are they trying to make the rejection easier because they're not very good at saying no? And are they actually doing worse by not being able to say no and just trying to waste my time? So that, Ashton was way more concise than me, but the answer is, with the email, is it depends. Generally speaking, if you're talking to a gatekeeper on the phone and they say, yeah, just send them an email, that's Greek for fuck off. They're basically calling you a malaka there. They're saying, gamoti trelasu, I don't want, just leave me alone, right? And also, what are emails in today's social climate? Emails are like, even me, dude. Like my inbox is just flooded with stuff. People don't check their emails as frequently. What you can do this, and this is how you can actually detect for people. And this sometimes you'll get a low conversion rate, and this is where familiarity will help you with this problem to begin with. But what you could actually say is, hey, totally, I'd be happy to send some information. What kind of information would you like me to send over? Just send him what you do. Okay, cool. I'd love to actually send him that. Do you know what we actually have been doing? It might be easier for me just to, shoot him a text. What's the best number for me to reach him at? Or better yet, this problem will naturally solve itself is if you use that concept of familiarity that I spoke about. Get on the phone with the gatekeeper. Hey, is John there? This is one possible script that you can follow through with. Hey, is John there? No, who's calling? Oh, it's Paul. No, but I'll go get him. 1 second. You have like the hot chick gatekeeper, my favorite. Right? No, just 1 second. I'll go get him. Just the tonality was able to do that. No, don't get expected with this as the new normal. It's still a relatively lower conversion, but there's nothing fundamentally bad that will happen off of you being more familiar. Further that, hey, is John here? No, he isn't. Can I take a message? You know what? I was actually looking for his contact. I think I misplaced it. And this is where you're getting a little pushy. You want to still sell with an integrity. But yeah, I think I misplaced his number. What's the best mobile to reach him at? 416, this, that.
Oh, we don't give out his number.
You don't give it out his number? Oh yeah. No, that's totally cool. I was in contact with him a little bit ago. I said I would follow up with him.
Who are you?
It's Paul.
Paul who? Are you a salesman?
Paul Trinka. Why? 'Cause why would you say that? That sounds so pretty. Also incorporate humor. Ashton is the king of the pretty voice line. The
What are you
pretty
trying to sell?
voice.
What do you, okay, dude, what are you trying to sell me?
Julia, do you think I'd genuinely be sitting here on a Tuesday afternoon trying to sell you something? No.
You sound nice. So what do you want? What do you want? Come on, get to the point, man.
Julia. Hey, bro. Epic. You're also gonna notice people might try to like blow you. Didn't come out right. You're gonna notice people are gonna try to blow you away. And also, if you close enough deals, people are also gonna try to blow you. But people are gonna try to blow you off. You do not want to get frenetic. Hey, Julia, can you hear me? When people get all, hey, can you hear me? Really powerful line to recalibrate.
Just to
And
add on top, sorry, just to cut in as well. There's this thing called mirroring, right? If you guys are all guys and you guys have gotten with chicks before, right? You like Jeremy has a girlfriend, Nico has a girlfriend. I want you to talk to your girlfriend and move your head like this, right? And she will subconsciously mirror you. Why? Because you are in a dominating masculine frame, right? So in sales, if someone comes with hostility and then you try to come with hostility, you're now taking their frame, right? And you look like a female and you look like you're going to get anal raped. So just to add on top of that, make sure that if someone's coming in hot, right, just stay calm. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. Slow it down, pull it back. If someone's coming in really slow, maybe take the opposite, right? Because it shows that you really don't care about their input. So, and it helps with sales. Paul, what do you have to say about that?
there's that concept of taking control over the frame. There's the concept of taking control of the sale. The sale is yours. The sale is yours. And it's up to you whether you take control over that. And the beauty of sales is, by the way, this is way more difficult than I'm saying. This is very simple in theory, but in practice, it's actually very difficult. It's kind of the equivalent of lifting a heavy weight. It's actually very tough to get that, to do that PR. It's very easy in theory. You're just on the bench, you're lying, you move the weight up and down, and that's it. You're done. You did your PR. But in practice, it's difficult. And the reason this is so difficult is because this is an emotional roller coaster. When you're on your 5th, 10th, 30th, 100th call of the day, and you're hearing people trying to frame control you, people trying to put you down, it's like that's where the mental strength comes in. And that's where you really test your character as a man, because it's like, wow, I just did 100 calls and I feel like garbage. Well, that means your feeling is dictated on an external source. Now that's an indicator of personal development that needs to occur. That's now telling you something about your own character and personality. And then what you'll notice is two things are going to happen. Number one, you're going to do more dials, so you're going to become harder to it, kind of like the David Goggins. Just do more reps, and you're going to become more immune to it. You're going to callous everything about yourself in the best way possible. But number two, you're also going to be able to have that sort of spiritual transcendence, which is I'm no longer attaching my identity to this external factor. And by the way, I'm going to allude this to the things that I spoke about at the beginning of this call, which is we're all a team, we're all a unit. Exactly. They don't know me, son. We're all a unit here. You are a team, right? So, does that make sense to you guys, by the way, when I say that? When I say all of those points, that concept of really strengthening yourself, the concept of being able to callous your mind, does that kind of resonate?
Who's going to carry the boats?
Is that going to be you,
Officer
Nico?
Earl.
Officer
Pardon?
Earl?
Officer Earl. Yeah, no, it does resonate though.
Okay. Jeremy, Kale, what are your thoughts on that, Kale? You've been kind of quiet here.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with the points you made. Yeah, pretty
Just
much
to
summed it up.
just to let you know, so Kale is he's more of, he doesn't really do the sales. He more of helps with operations and stuff.
Gotcha.
If that clarifies. I also want to go around and I want you guys to share one. I want you to pick one piece of hardship that you've experienced over this week, how you felt with that, and then I want you to I just kind of want to go around like we're in kindergarten here. Who wants to start?
I'll start. So like basically I called a guy, gave my opener or whatever. Halfway through my opener, just like hung up, right? It's like one of my first calls. Like literally first call, boom, like done. Like I didn't even I don't think I even like went through like a couple words. So I was like I kind of like reflected on it. I was like I felt like kind of bad about it, right? Like right off the bat. But I thought about it, I'm like, yo, like this is like he doesn't know me, I don't know him. There's no like why am I getting so emotionally attached to the fact that he, just hung up on me instantly, you know? And
Can I
then from there,
ask
I
you
was like, pardon?
why to answer your question, why do you think you were so emotionally attached to the fact that he just hung up on you? Jeremy, can you hear me?
My bad. I feel like it's just one of those like, it's like a subconscious thing, you know? It's like kind of like, this is like, I haven't done this before. So it was almost like a subconscious thing. More like, yeah. So that's why I was like, why do I feel this way? It's just like a subconscious thing in my brain, you know?
Let's go deeper because I'm sure, Nico, you've had a similar experience to where you immediately go on a dial and they hang up on you, right?
Oh
Is that
yeah,
what
for sure.
or you say words? So let's go deeper into this because this is actually a very interesting conversation. And I don't think we should just sort of distill it to I think it's a subconscious thing, even though it is a subconscious thing. You're absolutely right. But I think we need to go deeper into the why that's happening and where that's coming from. Because this is where the growth happens in that introspection. So jump into this. Talk to me more about the thought process of how you felt, and let's kind of dissect that a bit.
Yeah, I think it really goes into what you're saying about like how like this all kind of helps with like almost like growing as a person, because like you have to look back. I kind of looked into myself. I'm like, why do I feel this way? Like, why are like what other people are saying? Why does it affect me emotionally? Why does it even matter when it's somebody that I don't even know and they don't know me, you know? And it kind of made me think like, I got to be more confident in myself, like in my self-esteem and like be confident within like myself, kind of what you were saying about the external whatnot.
And how do you plan on doing that?
That honestly, I'm not sure. Like just working on myself, like I don't know, it could be through the gym, it could be through, building my confidence through other activities. But I'm not
Do you
sure if you could give input on that.
do you think doing more dials and doing what's uncomfortable is ultimately the solution to fundamentally becoming more confident?
No, definitely. I think it's definitely like getting out in my comfort zone and getting comfortable not being comfortable. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think
Or
that's what it comes down to.
or just be uncomfortable. Don't even get comfortable with the fact. Acknowledge that you're uncomfortable and say, it doesn't matter whether I'm comfortable or not. I'm just going to do it. Because the process of becoming more confident, what is confidence? Confidence is competence plus reference experiences. That's it. So fundamentally, the confidence isn't just going to come from going to the gym more. The confidence isn't just going to come from this, but ultimately, this is the scope that's going to, I think, genuinely, cold calling will give you the most confidence, core confidence as a human being.
I
This will
totally
give you
agree.
confidence to when you're in the airport and shit hits the fan or something goes wrong or you forget your passport or whatever, or some crazy shit happens. I can share, we're wrapping up the meeting in just a little bit now, but I can share so many anecdotes to where my life was literally saved. Just the other day, we had a huge shoot with a massive client, very, very big celebrity in the watch industry. We were supposed to shoot at their house. Last minute, we couldn't. Boom, problem solved in 10 minutes. Made a couple cold, literally, warm dials, figured it out because cold calling allows you to work under pressure more than anything in the world, more than the gym, more than anything in the planet. And do not think for one fucking minute, by the way, because this is a lot of the time that goes through, beginner cold calling head, what I'm doing is a menial activity. What I'm doing is a menial task. What I'm doing is a waste of time. It is not, it is an exercise. It's wax on, wax off. It's Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi. Cold calling is the fundamentals to sales, business, and success. If there's one thing you take away from this call, it's that. I'm
100%.
telling you, you can Google me, you can figure out who I've done, who I work with, and I'm telling you the solution is cold calling.
And I totally agree with you. And then just before we end here, I totally agree with everything you just said there, Paul. Nico, do you have, I know Jeremy shared his hardship. Nico, do you want to share?
Yeah, for sure. I actually spoke to Ashton about this yesterday on the phone. So I was having like a really shitty day. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I woke up in the morning, failed an assignment in school. Like, girlfriend was pissed at me all day. Parents were pissed. Just like really shitty day. Had a lot of work to do. I sit down and I start dialing all the numbers. I think I made about 70 or 80 calls yesterday. Like, of those 70 calls, like, I want to say 10 people actually picked up the phone. So it was just straight to voicemail, and I was just getting really pissed off and I was really fed up. And then I decided to like take maybe a little break, and I sat on my bed for a bit. And it's really funny you mentioned that letting external sources affect how you're feeling, because essentially all day what I was doing was letting all these external sources affect my mood and affect how I was feeling and what I was doing. And I sat on my bed and I got this, it's funny, I got this Goggins video on my Instagram thing, and it just started yelling at me to stop being a bitch. That's what it was. It was just stop being a bitch. So I stood up and I sat down and I started dialing again. And literally the first call I made, I booked a meeting with this guy, and it felt so good just to book that meeting and get that off my chest. So that was pretty good.
One word that I love that you just said there was let. I let myself get upset. I let myself get out of state. I let myself feel like shit. Because at the end of the day, that's the honest truth.
Yeah, that's what happens. So, sometimes you gotta just pick yourself up, right? If you fall down, just pick yourself back up. Fall down 6 times, get up 7, and just keep dialing.
You guys are superstars. That's what I like to hear. And one more thing to say before we wrap things up. Kind of what I said at the beginning of this call. You guys are genuinely on the right track. You are working with the right guy. If there is one person that you could be working with right now, either you guys are just really lucky. So here's what happened. I'm going to wrap this up really quickly by just saying this. One of two things I can tell you guys for a fact. Either you're really fucking lucky, which if you're really lucky, by the way, that answers your problem with cold calls, because just do more volume and your luck is inevitable. You're going to make money. Or you're really fucking intelligent to make the decision to work with Ashton. It's one of those two things. Either of those two things fundamentally mean that you are going to win. Okay? And I can tell you, if you actually persist, put in the necessary work, and continue doing what you're doing, it is virtually impossible to lose. The only reason you guys would lose here is if you don't continue to take the action, if you throw in the towel. That's simple. Any last points, comments, questions, Ashton? Any last remarks here?
I just want to say one thing. Thank you a lot, Paul. Like, I don't like, this is 49 minutes. Like, Paul, if you want to work with Paul on like a one-on-one basis, like I'm sure like what are your rates, Paul, for like an hour, like 750 or some shit like that. Like Paul is like I want to just thank you from the bottom of my heart for like making a chat. I know like our show up is not the best, but this is going to be viewed by our 4 other guys as well, and I'm sure this chat is going to help. So I just want to thank you for taking time out of your day and coming and talking with us.
My pleasure, my man. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, that's the chat. I'm just gonna end the recording.